What can you say about my answer, partner?
Partner ha, I like your answer, very patchy and ace difficult questions eh. No, ako naman partner, no, na-realize ko na everyone is vulnerable, no? No one is
Mm.
exempted from an illness or a disease. No, nobody has the immunity, sabi nga, di ba? When we're talking about pandemic, bata ka man, matanda ka, no, mayaman ka, mahirap ka, pwede kang mahawa o ma-infect ng COVID-19, di ba, partner?
Tama yun. Nice realization, partner. So, kaya naman, napaka-timely and relevant ng ating webinar ngayon, no? So, para mas lalong ma-retool at ma-capacitate ang ating mga teachers with these trends and updates yung mga science teachers.
Okay. No? So, alam mo partner, tama ka dyan. And since we're still on limbo, we don't know what might happen next. Hindi naman pwedeng itigil natin ang pag-provide ng quality education among our learners. There should be learning continuity. Sabi nga, no, whatever happens, hindi kailangan maharangan ng pandemyang ito ang mandato ng ating departamento sa pagbibigay ng quality education among the Filipino learners. So, ayan ang ginagawa natin ngayon sa DepEd eh. So, ikaw nakapagbigay ka na ba ng modules mo kanina?
Yes, partner, nakapagbigay na ako ng modules. So, hindi talaga tayo mapipigilan ng kahit anong pandemya para makatuto natin yung ating mga bata.
Yes, no, I agree. So, eto, talagang medyo mahaba ng usapan natin. I think it's about time to start our program this afternoon and to formally open our webinar. Let us listen to the opening remarks of the head of the Science Department of SDO Bataan, our Education Program Supervisor in Science, Dr. Edwin Riel Bernilio.
Happy New Year, everyone. My respect and greetings to our Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Romeo M. Alip, to our Assistant Schools Division Superintendent, Sir William Roderick Fallurin, to our Curriculum Implementation Division Chief, Dr. Milagros M. Peñaflor, to the Program Management Team, Learning Facilitators, Science teachers from grade 3 to senior high school, including alternative learning system, to our dearest students and parents, magandang buhay po sa ating lahat. Positive feedbacks were received from the first wave of our webinar as a good start that signified that the science department could conduct webinar in the different grade levels from grade 3 to senior high school using this platform and live stream at Bataan Science Channel. Expectedly, the task of teachers will be more challenging than before, considering that in this new normal setting, we in the SDO Bataan need to embark appropriate strategies and approaches to be able to realize our desire to make science education continue amidst this health crisis. This second wave of our webinar series is aiming again to enhance the content knowledge and pedagogical skills of our science teachers as necessary preparation for us to effectively deliver the most essential learning competencies and skills to our teachers and learners for the second quarter. This webinar series is only part of what we intend to do under the new normal to augment the educational needs of our students. It is a perfect tool that offers a myriad of information on science content, teaching strategies, and innovation in support to science curriculum that will help them to adapt to changes in the latest teaching and learning system under the new normal. To our learning facilitators and program management team, thank you very much for accepting this challenge. I know we can do this with God's grace, and we will be able to survive and face the whole new world of educational learning experience with confidence, integrity, and most of all, with the different competencies that we have. Maraming salamat po sa lahat. God bless everyone. Keep safe po. And we will be able to survive and face the whole new world of educational learning experience with confidence, integrity, and most of all, with the different competencies that we have. Maraming salamat po sa lahat. God bless everyone.
Sir Jack, Sir Gerald, wala pong narinig, boses lang po, wala po yung audio. Wala pong tao,
Thank you so much po, Dr. Edwin, for that inspiring message and to also enlighten and motivate us for this webinar. Pakinggan din natin ang mensahe ng ating CID Chief, Dr. Milagros M. Peñaflor.
Hello everybody, good to be with you again after the first quarter. Here we go to the next station, the second quarter. Thanks to you, my dear science teachers, for the continuous effort of providing our learners with skills, not only for mastery, but most importantly, for developing higher order skills on critical thinking and creativity. My gratitude to our science supervisor, Dr. Edwin Berbillo, for all the initiatives. This move really provides our unit, the Curriculum Implementation Division, a great help in realizing its goal of providing basic education services to our clientele. On behalf of our Schools Division Superintendent, Dr. Romeo M. Alip, I would like to congratulate the Science Department, our teachers, our department heads, our principal science coordinators for improving science instruction that eventually lead to improving learner performance. Thank you for all your efforts. Congratulations and God bless us all. Our teachers, our department heads, our principal science coordinators for improving science instruction that eventually lead to improving learner performance. Thank you for all your efforts. Congratulations and God bless.
Maraming salamat po, Dr. Milagros M. Peñaflor. So, Sir Chris, syempre, para mas maging smooth ang flow ng ating webinar this afternoon, iset muna natin yung ilang house rules na kailangan na isa ulo at isa puso ng ating mga participants.
Yes, partner, correct. Okay, partner. So, malinaw ang ating house rules. Sa tingin ko naman ay isa sa puso at isa sa ulo ng ating mga participants niyan, no? Para magkaroon tayo ng smooth flow ng ating, maging smooth ang flow ng ating webinar ngayon hapon na ito. Okay? So, partner, sa tingin ko ay excited ka na makilala ang ating mga facilitators this afternoon, di ba? So, bago yan, we'd also like to inform everyone to please fill the attendance form for this webinar. The link will be posted by our ICT personnel at the end of the question and answer part of this webinar. Okay, so at this point in time, partner, pakilala natin ang ating mga bigatin ng mga speakers. So ready ka na ba?
Yes. Yes, excited na ako, partners, ating mga facilitators for today's webinar.
Okay, so let's start with our first speaker. She graduated Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Biological Science at the Bataan Peninsula State University in the Lupihan campus. Currently taking her Master of Arts in Education, major in General Science at the same university. She once became a teaching staff at American International School, Subic Bay, Preferred Zone, Zambales. She also had stayed at Eastwood's College of Science and Technology in the Lupihan, Bataan. Teacher 1 from the Wakan National High School, and she is no less than Ma'am Sarah Jane A. Timbang. Our next speaker was born and raised in Zambales. She graduated with a degree Bachelor of Secondary Education, majoring in General Science at President Ramon Magsaysay State University, formerly known as Ramon Magsaysay Ecological University, San Marcelino Campus. She took up her Master of Arts in Education, majoring in Educational Management at the Bataan Peninsula State University in the Lupihan Campus, and earned a complete academic requirements. Currently Teacher 3 and Science Coordinator of Magsaysay National High School, Ma'am Jeanette F. Jimenez. Our third speaker graduated with a degree Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in physics at Philippine Normal University, Manila. He earned his Master of Arts in Education, major in General Science at the Bataan Peninsula State University main campus. Presently, he is taking up his Doctor of Philosophy in Physics Education at the University of the Philippines Open University. Teacher 3 at Mariveles National High School, Poblacion, Sir Robert Kevin A. Alindayo.
Our next speaker was born and raised in Orani, Bataan, graduated magna cum laude with a degree Bachelor of Elementary Education, major in General Education at Bataan Peninsula State University, Dinalapihan Campus. He also earned complete academic requirements in his Master of Arts in Education, major in Educational Management at Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Santa Mesa, Manila. Teacher 2 and currently teaching at Legua Integrated School, Sir Jason B. Ocampo. Our second to the last speaker was born and raised in Sambal, Bataan, graduated cum laude with a degree Bachelor of Elementary Education, major in General Education at Bataan Peninsula State University, Orani Campus. She already earned 42 units of master's degree in education, major in educational management at Tomas del Rosario College. Currently, Teacher 1 at Asuncion Consulni Elementary School, Ma'am Josa Sara Diaz. Our last speaker, and definitely not least, hails from Abukay, Bataan. He graduated Bachelor of Secondary Education, major in Biological Science at Bataan Peninsula State University, Balanga Campus. He taught at Bangkal Elementary School for 2 years. Teacher 1 at Salian Elementary School, Sir Aaron M. Ganzon.
There you have it, partner, no, our 6 handpicked speakers for this webinar. Bigyan naman natin sila ng virtual clap, no? No, deserve ng ating mga facilitators siya, di ba? Talagang bigatin talaga silang lahat, doon pa lang sa kanilang educational backgrounds, achievements, awards, ay talaga naman mukhang meron tayong aasahan sa kanila this afternoon, no? Ako kasi partner, bigatin din, kaya lang literal,
Yes,
no?
partner.
Sa dami ng aking nakain nitong nakaraang Pasko at bagong taon. Okay, so partner, no, bago tayo mag-proceed with our first speaker, magbasa muna tayo ng ilang mga shout-outs mula sa ating mga participants. Ayan, para naman maramdaman nila na talagang nire-recognize natin ang presence nila. Ito, meron tayo dito mula kay Ma'am Maria Teresita Heredia. Good afternoon po, watching from Paraiso, ES, Orani. Ayan, meron din tayo partner dito galing kay Ma'am Con Brigula, watching from Orani South Elementary School. God bless us all. So, meron ba tayo nag-shoutout dyan, partner? May mga nagpag-greet ba dyan?
Yes, partner, may nagpag-greet dito from Kasupan Elementary School, Science Coordinator, Ma'am Lady Iris Dinig daw. Sabi niya po, siya yung aming teacher in charge. Thank you po sa mga tips at saka yung mga ma-impart na knowledge ng ating mga facilitators for today's webinar.
Okay, so meron din
Ma'am Jeanette F. Jimenez, pa-shout out daw po sa kanilang newly installed principal ng Magsaysay National High School, Dr. Aida P. Capili, ganun, Ma'am Marlene G. Lulu. Sabi po nila, ang lahat daw, kumusta din daw po sa lahat ng science teacher ng Magsaysay National High School, #ngawa pero gagawa.
Wow, so gusto ko ang kanilang hashtag, no? Ngangawa
Yes,
pero
partner.
gagawa. Nakakamodali. So meron din tayo dito partner mula kay Ma'am Ann Hamad. Good afternoon po, watching from Kanawan Integrated School, District of Morong. So hello po, Ma'am Ann Hamad ng Morong District. So meron pa dito partner mula kay Ma'am Gloria Bringas. Good afternoon po. Good afternoon din po, Ma'am Gloria. So meron din tayo dito mula kay Ma'am Jo Marie Mendoza. Good afternoon, representing Duale ES Limay District. So partner, meron pa bang shoutouts dyan?
Meron pa dito isa partner, sabi niya po, still watching from Bagak District, Ma'am Jessica Torres, Principal 1 of Bagak District.
Okay, so I think partner, it's about time to start with our session proper. Kilala mo na ang ating first speaker.
Yes, partner. Okay, so partner, so ito po yung ating first speaker. Siguro ano na siya, ready na, no? So excited na ako. So ito po ang ating first facilitators for today to discuss different organ system of the body. Here is Ma'am Sarah Jane A. Timbang.
Welcome to the Vision webinar series on science content and teaching strategies in the context of most essential learning competencies for grade 6 science teachers. My name is Ma'am Sarah Jane A. Timbang, Teacher 1 of Luwakan National High School. Good day, teachers. The topic for the second quarter, which has a duration of 1 to 3 weeks, is organ system. This is one of the most interesting topic because it talks about knowing and understanding our body. The target competencies for this quarter are as follows. Number 1, identify the structure and function of the parts of the organ systems. Number 2, explain how do the parts of the organ system work. 3, enumerate the major parts of the organ systems. And number 4, make a chart showing helpful habits that promote proper functioning of the organ system. Lastly, explain how the different organ systems work together. Admit it or not, teachers often start their lesson with questions. With this topic, generally we can ask our pupils, what does our body do every day? From the moment we woke up until we sleep at night. Every minute or second, we use the different parts of our body which we call as organs that work together as a biological system to perform one or more functions. In our body, we have 11 organ systems. Okay, teachers, we can use this idea as one of your warm-up activity and to assess a student's prior knowledge. Let's say, for example, in what organ system does the following organs belong? First is the nose. In which organ system does it belong? Okay, that's right. Nose belong to the respiratory system. How about the eyes? Okay, very good. The eyes belongs to the nervous system. Lastly, we have the mouth. Where does it belong? Okay, you get it right. The mouth belongs to the digestive system. Here are the organ systems in the human body. Integumentary, which includes skin, hair, and nails. Skeletal, which includes bones and connective tissues. Respiratory, reproductive, digestive, the endocrine, We have the muscular system, cardiovascular, urinary, nervous, and the lymphatic system. Let us have the skeletal system. By the way, teachers, always remember that in choosing pictures or image to be used in your lesson, make sure that the part of the body organ is clear in order for the pupils to avoid confusions and for them to remember the parts easily. For its function, it protects the internal organs. It stores and releases fat, produces blood cells, stores and releases minerals, facilitates movement, and support the body. Let us have the parts of the skeletal system one by one. We have the skull, clavicle, sternum, humerus, the ribs, ulna, radius, backbone, pelvis, phalanges, femur, fibula, tibia, and the phalanges. Also, we may teach the parts one by one like these images. Same with the function. We may show them pictures as hint what could be the function of each organs. We may apply those strategies to the different systems of the body. It can also be in a game form or puzzle. Let's take a quick review of the body systems. First is the muscular system. The muscular system is an organ system consisting of skeletal, smooth, and cardiac muscles. It permits movement of the body, maintains posture, and circulates blood throughout the body. The muscular system in vertebrates are controlled through the nervous system, although some muscles can be completely autonomous. Next is the integumentary system. It is composed of the skin, which is the largest organ of the body, the hair, nails, subcutaneous tissue below the skin, and assorted glands. It functions as to protect the body's internal living tissues and organs. It lubricates and waterproofs the body, protects against invasion by infectious microorganisms, protects the body from dehydration, and sends receptors for touch, pressure, pain, heat, and cold. Next will be the digestive system. Digestive system consists of the parts of the body working together that help turn food and liquids into the building blocks and fuel the body needs. Circulatory system. The circulatory system delivers oxygen and nutrients to cells and takes away wastes. The heart pumps oxygenated and deoxygenated blood on different sides and all parts of the body. Next is the excretory system. Liquid wastes are eliminated by the excretory system. The kidneys filter the blood and wastes are removed through urine, which is stored in the bladder. Another is the respiratory system. There are 5 functions of the respiratory system. It is for gas exchange, oxygen and carbon dioxide, sound production, olfactory assistance, and protection. Lastly, we have the nervous system. The primary function of the nervous system is to control and communicate information throughout the body. For this lesson, there are lots of available worksheets. We may use these worksheets to determine whether what parts and function of certain body systems need to reteach, review, or revisit. We can download more of these worksheets in Google or other sites that you know. Just make sure that the worksheet is shared free or available to protect the copyright. We may also improvise as to how pupils will identify the parts and function of each body system. In short, teachers, let us be more creative. Let's move on as to how do organ systems work together. Different organ systems cooperate to keep the body running. Where do you think does this mouth belong to? Is this for or respiration? That's right. It belongs to both systems, the respiratory and the digestive system. It works together to function well. Same with the other body systems. The respiratory and the circulatory system work closely together to deliver oxygen to cells and to get rid of the carbon dioxide the cells produce. The blood in your circulatory system has to receive nutrients from the digestive system and undergo filtration in your kidneys. Or it wouldn't be able to sustain the cells of your body and remove the waste they produce. In order to protect our body system, we should practice healthy habits. Teachers should emphasize and instill to their young pupils of the importance of these health practices. The younger they learn, the longer their body systems work properly. Healthy habits includes good food, exercise, and avoiding toxic materials. In this slide, we may ask our pupils which are good and bad habits. They can eliminate the bad habits and practice the good habits. For the last slide, I have here copies or links of the sites where you can download or view videos about body systems that you may use in your everyday lesson. Also, we may advise those pupils who are capable of downloading cell phone applications where they can learn about body organs and systems. Okay, that will be the end of my assigned topic, but the start and warm up of your second quarter. Once again, I am Ma'am Sarah Jane A. Timbang saying thank you for listening and God bless.
There you have it, partner. Thank you so much, Ma'am Sarah Jane, for that comprehensive discussion about different organ systems of the body. Sa mga participants po, makireserve muna po ninyo ang inyong mga questions at sasagutin po lahat yan ng ating mga speakers mamaya. Okay, partner, no? So, batiin ko lang si Ma'am Imelda Robles, Binukawan Elementary School. Nanonood daw po silang lahat. So, hello po, Ma'am Imelda. Binabati ko din po si Ma'am Maylene Cruz ng San Simon Elementary School. Kasama Okay, so partner, no, nagkaroon tayo ng konting technical problem. Naririnig mo na ba ako, partner, Ma'am Glenda?
Loud and clear, partner.
Hindi po ay humingi ng pasensya sa kaunting technical problem natin. Alam po namin na yung iba ay hindi makapasok ngayon sa ating live dahil nga nagloloko itong ating PLDT. No? Hindi naman yan pwedeng, kumbaga hindi natin ina-expect yan, no? Pwedeng mangyari talaga na mawalan tayo ng signal anytime. Okay, partner, so since limited lang ating time for this afternoon, siguro tawagin na rin natin ang ating susunod na speaker to discuss the different characteristics of vertebrates and invertebrates. Let us listen to the presentation of Ma'am Jeanette F. Jimenez.
Hello, good day everyone. Welcome to the Division webinar on science content and teaching strategies in the context of most essential competencies. Today, we will be discussing about the different characteristics of vertebrates and invertebrates. The animal kingdom is divided into two major divisions, the vertebrates and the invertebrates. Before we begin, let us have first our learning goals. The first one is to classify animals based on the presence or lack of backbones. Second, to determine the distinguishing characteristics of vertebrates. Third, make an inventory of vertebrates that are commonly seen in the community. And last, practice ways of caring and protecting animals. What are vertebrates? Vertebrates belong to the one of the phyla of the animal kingdom called phylum Chordata. Cartilage or bones are the building materials of most vertebrate endoskeletons. Endoskeletons are the internal skeleton or supporting framework in an animal. Mammals and birds are warm-blooded animals, or what we call endothermic vertebrates. When we say warm-blooded animals, they can generate their body heat internally by their own metabolism. Classifications of vertebrates. Mammals, from the Latin word mamma, which means breast. Mammals are warm-blooded animals or endotherms. The bodies of mammals are partly or completely covered with hair or fur. Examples are the lion and the tiger. Most mammals develop their young inside the mother's body and are fully formed when they are born. Some other examples are cats and dogs. Mammals breathe through their lungs. They have a muscle called the diaphragm that helps them breathe. Just like in the picture, we have here the human lung. There are several kinds of mammals. We have monotremes, which are what we call egg-laying mammals. They are the most primitive and reptile-like of the mammals. Examples are the duckbill platypus and the spiny anteater of Australia. The second kind of mammal is what we call the marsupials. The marsupials are the pouch mammals. Marsupials are born very tiny, immature, and complete their development in their mother's pouch. Examples are kangaroo, opossum, and koala. And the third, placental mammals. Placental mammals have placenta, in where developing young is retained within the uterus of the female until embryonic development is complete. Examples, cats and baboons, and of course, humans. These are examples of monotreme: the platypus and the anteater, kangaroo, koala, opossum are examples of marsupial mammals or pouch mammals. And we have the elephant, the cat, the dog, and the gorilla as examples of the placental mammals. The second type of vertebrates are what we call the reptiles. From the Latin word reptile or repo, it means to creep. Reptiles are cold-blooded vertebrates or ectotherms. When we say ectotherms, they rely primarily on its external environment to regulate its body temperature. They cannot regulate or generate their own body temperature internally. Reptiles are terrestrial animals. They are fully adapted to life on land. Reptiles have dry, scaly skin. Some have scales and others have shells. Reptiles primarily breathe through their lungs for respiration, except for turtles. Most reptiles use their legs and feet for locomotion or movement. Some reptiles are born alive and some are hatched from eggs. Examples of reptiles. We have here a snake, lizard, and a turtle. Can you give more examples of reptiles? The next classification are the amphibians, from the Greek word amphibios, meaning to live a double life. Amphibians are cold-blooded animals that spend part of their lives in water and part of land. Young amphibians breathe through their gills. Amphibians have smooth, moist, and scaleless skins. Amphibians lay egg in water. Amphibians have eggs that develop into an adult through a series of stages or through metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is the process in which animals undergo extreme, rapid physical changes over a period of time after birth. Examples: butterflies, moth, beetles, flies, and bees. From being an egg to larva, pupa, and finally emerging into a beautiful adult stage. There are two major groups of amphibians: the tailed amphibians, such as the Sicilian, salamander, and newt, and tailless amphibians such as frogs and toads. Example of an amphibian is a toad. Toads have dry, rough, and warty skin. They can live on land far away from water. Frogs is another example of an amphibian. They have a thin, moist skin that is loosely attached to their body. They generally live near ponds, streams, swamps, and other bodies of water. Another example of an amphibians are newts. They have moist, smooth skin like frog and long tails like lizard. The term newt is sometimes used for salamanders that spend most of each year living on land. Did you know that frogs can breathe through their skin? They need to keep their skin moist to be able to breathe through their skin. If the skin is too dry, they are not able to absorb oxygen. Another classification of vertebrates are birds. Birds are warm-blooded animals, or the endotherms. They can generate their body heat internally by their own metabolism. Birds have two pairs of limbs. The mouth of a bird is in the form of a horn-covered beak or bill. Birds lay egg with shells. Their youngs hatch from egg. Birds: the Philippine eagle, the Palawan peacock pheasant, the Philippine the spotted wood kingfisher. Some more examples of birds in the Philippines: the Palawan hornbill and the female barn button quail. Fish is another classification of a vertebrate. Fish are cold-blooded animals or ectoderms. Most fish have vertebral column, jaws, paired fins, scales, gills, and a single loop blood circulation. Fish breathe with gills and take water in through its mouth. Fish are covered with scales. A fish has a lateral line on each side. This enables them to sense vibrations from the boats, people, and other animals. Fish also lay egg in water. Their youngs are hatched from eggs. Examples of fish. Are they familiar? We have different types of fish. Bony fish. Bony fish are the largest group of fish. The members of this group have bony skeletons, paired fins, and protective overlapping scales. They are found in both fresh and saltwater habitats. Examples of bony fish: angelfish, lionfish, trunkfish. The second type of fish is the cartilaginous fish. This group of fish have flexible skeletons made up of cartilage tissues. Almost most members of this group are found in salt water. They have movable upper and lower jaws, equipped with several rows of sharp teeth. Example: the shark, rays, and skates. Importance of vertebrates. Mammals are sources of food and other products. Example in the picture are meat from chicken and pork from pig. Some animals are kept as service animals by people or kept as pets. Like in your houses, you have dogs and cats. Snake venom is used in medicine. Fish are sources of food and other products. Now, let us move on with invertebrates. Let us have first our learning goals. The first goal is to classify invertebrates based on their characteristics. Second, determine the distinguishing characteristics of invertebrates. Third, make an inventory of invertebrates that are commonly seen in the community. And last, practice ways of caring and protecting animals. What are invertebrates? Invertebrates are animals without backbone or vertebral column. Invertebrate animals can be classified as arthropods, mollusks, poriferans, echinoderms, cnidarian, platyhelminthes, nematodes, annelids. Let us move first to the arthropods, from the Greek word arthron and pous, meaning jointed legs. They are characterized by their jointed limbs and cuticle made of chitin. Chitin is the hard outer covering of insects, arachnids, and crustaceans. The body consists of segments, each with a pair of appendages. The rigid cuticle inhibits growth, so arthropods practice it periodically by molting, or the shedding of their outer covering or shells. Arthropods are bilaterally symmetrical, and their body possesses an external skeleton. Some species have wings. Arthropods are further classified into insects, arachnids, crustaceans, centipede, and millipede. Insects have three pairs of legs or six-legged arthropods. The legs are adapted for crawling, collecting pollen, and jumping. Examples are ants, butterflies, moths, mosquitoes, fleas, bees, bugs, beetles. Arachnids have two body segments and no antennae. Most arachnids live on land and a few live on water. Examples for arachnids are spiders, scorpions, tick, and mites. The next classification of arthropods are the crustaceans. Crustaceans are characterized by the presence of two pairs of antennae located on the head. Examples are lobsters, crabs, and shrimp. Centipede means 100 feet. Most of these animals really have less than 100 feet. Centipedes have flattened bodies divided into two segments, the head and the trunk. Millipede means 1,000 feet. They have cylindrical bodies consisting of about 20 to more than 100 segments. We have here examples of insects as you see in the picture. We have dragonflies, ants, mosquitoes, butterfly, grasshopper, mosquito, and cockroach. We also have arachnids. You have your spider, your scorpion, and your tick. And of course, your crustaceans, shrimps, crabs, lobsters, and barnacles. Centipede, 100 feet, and millipede, the 1,000 feet. Did you know that? Centipedes are carnivores which eats insects and worms, while millipedes are herbivores which eat plants and rotting materials. Now we know. Mollusks, from the Latin word molluscus, meaning soft-bodied animals. Mollusks are coelomate animals with bilateral symmetry, a soft internal body, a digestive tract with two openings, and a muscular foot and a mantle. Bilateral symmetry means that the body is divided into two roughly mirror image left and right halves. Mollusks are found in aquatic and moist land environment, such as oceans and fresh water. Many mollusks use a rasping structures called radula to scrape food into their mouth. Most mollusks have an open circulatory system. It means that blood is not enclosed in the blood vessels but pumped in a cavity called the hemocoel. Some mollusks, like squid and octopuses, have a closed circulatory system. Closed circulatory system means that the heart pumps blood through the blood vessels. Examples of mollusks are snails, squids, and oysters. Another classification of invertebrates are the echinoderms. Echinoderms are from the Greek word echinos and derma, which means hedgehog skin. Echinoderms are marine animals with spiny endoskeleton. The water vascular system of echinoderms work together and enables them to get food. The strainer-like opening structure of an echinoderm is called the madreporite. An echinoderm's movement is varied based on the body shape. We have here examples of echinoderms, or the spiny-skinned animals: starfish, sea lily, and the sea urchin. Another classification of invertebrates are the porifera, or the sponges, from the Latin word forus and fur, meaning pore bearing. Sponges are pore-bearing animals. They have no tissue, no organs, and most have no symmetry. All sponges are aquatic. Most of them live in salt water, but a few live in fresh water. Sponges differ in color, size, and shape. These are examples of sponges, or the pore-bearing animals. Another classification of invertebrates are the cnidarians, from the Greek word nide, which means nettle. Nettle is a kind of plant that has stinging hair. Cnidarians are also known as coelenterates or coelenterata. They have one body opening and most have two-layer cell. Cnidarians are made up of tissue and have radial symmetry. There are two general body types of cnidarians, the polyp and the medusa. Polyp and medusa are two different life cycles of a cnidarian. When we say polyp, this is something that is fixed or not moving, while medusa is something that is moving freely. The polyp body form is cylindrical with a mouth and tentacles at the upper open end. Corals and hydras are examples of polyps. They are not moving, right? The medusa is shaped like an upside-down bowl, with a mouth and tentacles facing downward. Jellyfishes are examples of medusa body form. We have here examples of cnidarians, or the stinging cell animals, corals, jellyfish, and sea anemone. Another classification of invertebrates are the platyhelminthes, from the Greek word platy and helminth meaning flatworm. Flatworms are thin, flat isolate that can be free-living or parasitic. They have a thin body that resembles a ribbon and have definite head region and body organs. Flatworms have no digestive system. Flatworms are hermaphrodites because they produce egg and sperm cell. Flatworms have three major groups: planaria, tapeworm, and fluke. Planarian lives in streams, lakes, seawater, or damp soil. They may have green, yellow, or black stripes, or plain gray, brown, or black in color. Tapeworm live in human intestine and feeds completely on the digested food of its host. Therefore, it is parasitic. Fluke stay in the liver of their host. They can enter the human body through the skin. They are dangerous to your health. Nematode is another classification of invertebrates, from the Greek word nema and odes, meaning thread-like. Roundworms are unsegmented worms that have long, thin, round bodies pointed at both ends and are covered by a tough cuticle. Roundworms have muscle that run the length of their body. Roundworms are both found in marine and freshwater habitats and even on land. Examples: the trichina and the filaria. Both are disease-causing. Annelids is another classification of invertebrates, from the Latin word annulus, meaning little ring. These are segmented worms or annelids that have body segments that allow for specialization of tissues and for efficient movement. Their bodies are divided into segments with a ringed appearance. They live almost everywhere except in the frozen soil of polar regions and in the sand of dry desert. Annelids. As you see in the picture, these are the worms in your garden. Importance of invertebrates. Insects contribute to the fertility of soil, just like the earthworms in your garden. Insects help in pollination. Shells from mollusks are used in various industries. Let's move on to the ways of caring and protecting our animals. Number 1, be a voice for the voiceless. Speak out against any injustice to animals you encounter. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. When choosing packaged goods, choose those with little or no plastic wrap. Pick up litter wherever you go. Do not spray pesticides and chemicals on lawns. Do not use bug zappers because they kill harmless insects that are food for birds, bats, and other animals. Garden for wildlife. Plant perennial gardens instead of grass. They attract birds, bees, and butterflies. Feed local birds or leave some water outdoor for thirsty animals, especially during summer. Keep your cats and dogs properly. Native birds are prey to dogs and cats. Adopt a pet or donate your time or money to a shelter or animal sanctuary. Plant trees and love nature. One tree can soak up as much as 48 pounds of carbon dioxide in 1 year and produce enough oxygen to sustain 2 human beings for life. Avoid hunting. Leave animals in their own respective habitats. Thank you very much. That's all for today. I hope you learned from this lesson. Let us all remember that Earth was created for all of us, not some of us.
Okay, thank you so much, Ma'am Jeanette. I learned a lot from your topic for today. So, mas lalo pa kaming dumami yung aming kaalaman about sa vertebrates and invertebrates. So, for sure, i-share ko to sa aking magiging estudyante at sa magiging pa, no? Okay, sir, meron ba tayong mga shoutout dyan? Para naman ma-recognize natin yung ating mga
Okay,
viewers
partner,
for
no? So,
today.
bago tayo okay, so bago tayong magbasa ng ilang shoutouts natin, partner, no, i-recognize muna natin yung problema ng iba nating mga grade 6 teachers kasi yung iba hindi sila makapasok sa ating YouTube channel because of the signal interruption ng kanilang internet. So, naiintindihan po namin yon. In case lang po na hindi kayo makapanood ngayon ng live sa atin webinar, may replay naman po ito, no? So, pwede pa rin kayong manood ng replay sa ating Bataan Science Channel sa YouTube. Okay. So, partner, nagpapabati pala si Dr. Ryan Singyan ng Dinalupihan Elementary School. Hello po sa lahat ng teachers ng DES headed by Ma'am or Dr. Tess Peñaflor. So may shoutouts pa ba dyan, partner?
Yes, pa-shoutout din daw po. Still watching from Kasipanan ES, Sir Frederick S. Sabado.
Okay,
Ikaw,
so
partner, meron pa ba
nagpapabati
dyan?
rin nagpapabati rin si Ma'am Emily Reyes ng San Ramon Elementary School. Galing ako ng San Ramon, partner, no? So malapit ang puso sa akin ng mga teachers doon. Hello po sa lahat ng Ramonians, no? Na kanilang principal ngayon ay si Ma'am Jane Robles. So hello po. Meron pa tayo dito, partner, mula naman kay Ma'am Maricel Barbasan. Good afternoon po. Still watching from Limay District. Okay, so meron pa ba tayo, partner?
Okay, may isa pa dito, partner. Sabi niya, salamat daw po sa mga facilitators natin na nag-effort para sa ating 21st century educators. Galing po yan from Ma'am Zaira B. Garcia. So, thank you, Ma'am
Okay.
Zaira.
Oh. So, eto pa. Meron pa nagpapahabol dito from Sir Samson Angat. Mapagpalang hapon po, mga ka-grade 6 teachers ng Bataan watching from Paraiso ES. So partner, no, hindi natin mababasa lahat ng shoutouts nila ngayon kasi nga we only have limited time. No, sorry po kung hindi namin ma-accommodate lahat ng inyong greetings.
So, let us now proceed to our third speaker, no? Ready na rin po siya to talk about ecological interactions. So, let us now listen to Sir Robert Kevin A. Alindayo.
Good day, everyone. Join me as I discuss the concepts of ecological interactions. For this session, the objective is, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to, number 1, identify and describe the interactions for survival among living and non-living things that take place in tropical rainforests, coral reefs, and mangrove swamps. There are many complex relationships in an ecosystem. In parasitism, an organism lives in or on another and feeds on it without immediately killing it. Mutualism, a cooperative partnership between two species. Mutualism is a symbiotic relationship in which both species benefit. Commensalism, a relationship where one species benefits and the other remains unaffected. Here are some examples of parasitism. Rafflesia arnoldii, the flower found in the forests of Southeast Asia. This delightful organism is actually an obligate parasite and cannot photosynthesize on its own. In fact, 100% of its unpleasantness is fueled with nutrients it steals from the roots of neighboring tetrastigma vines. Rafflesia makes parasitism pay off in a big smelly way. Human and intestinal worms. 1 out of every 5 people on the planet still require treatment for intestinal worms, around 1.5 billion people. The most common forms of intestinal worms are hookworm, roundworm, and whipworm. These parasites have stymied human health for generations, causing pain, stealing nutrients, and stunting both physical and cognitive growth in children, preventing them from reaching their full potential. Third, human and mosquito. Parasites may be characterized as ectoparasites, including ticks, fleas, leeches, and lice, which live on the body surface of the host and do not themselves commonly cause disease in the host. Or endoparasites, which may be either intercellular, which means inhabiting spaces in the host's body, or intracellular, inhabiting cells in the host body. Intracellular parasites such as bacteria or viruses often rely on the third organism, known as the carrier or vector, to transmit them to the host. Malaria, which is caused by a protozoan of the genus Plasmodium, transmitted to humans by the bite of an Anopheles mosquito, is an example of this interaction. Here are some examples of mutualism. The warthogs are given a grooming while the sharp-toothed mungoses pick off insects and especially ticks. Hence, the mongoose gets a meal and the warthogs gets clean. In some instances, numerous mongooses will nibble at the warthog's tough skin, even crawling on top of the pig if need be. Another example is the African bird known as the greater honeyguide, and local tribespeople in Tanzania called the hadza. The small bird leads the person to the source of honey. After spotting the beehive, the tribesmen climb up the tree to steal pieces of honeycomb. Before going back, the hadza will leave pieces of smoked honeycomb so that the birds can fertilization or pollination of flowers and butterflies. The resource, which is the pollen, is provided by the flower, and the service is provided by the insect, the butterfly. Service-service mutualism exists when both organisms offer each other protection. The sea anemones and the clownfish have a co-evolved mutual relationship. The sea anemone has toxin-filled tentacles that may kill small fishes that come close, but not the clownfish. The clownfish has a thick layer of protective mucus which provides immunity against the anemone toxin. The sea anemone provides service by protecting the clownfish. In return, the clownfish also protects the sea anemone from predatory butterfly fish and removes parasite from its host, and lastly, provides nutrients from its fecal remains. Here are some examples of commensalism. Owls live in trees in coniferous forests. The owl has a home in the tree and the tree is not harmed. Cattle egrets foraging in fields among cattle or other livestock is an example of commensalism. As cattle, horses, and other livestock graze on the field, they cause movements that stir up various insects. As the insects are stirred up, the cattle egrets following the livestock catch and feed upon them. The egrets benefit from this relationship because the livestock have helped them find their meals, while the livestock are typically unaffected by it. The whale and barnacles. The barnacle benefits from this relationship because it is provided with a place to live and filter food. The whale seems to be not affected by this and might not even benefit as well. Humpback whales have been known to roll over when being attacked, so the predator is faced with a tough surface of barnacles instead of soft skin. All types of commensalism require one organism to benefit from the relationship and the other to be unaffected. But within those parameters, there are three main types of commensalism. In inquilism, one organism serves as a permanent home for another organism. An example is a woodpecker drilling a cavity in a cactus to use as a nesting site. The woodpecker benefits, the cactus is unaffected. Foracy is when one organism uses the other for transportation. Barnacles attaching themselves to whale is an example. The barnacles get a free ride to new feeding and breeding grounds, while the whales likely don't even notice the barnacles. In this example, tomentose burying beetle with phoretic mites. Metabiosis is when an organism, often diseased, creates an environment for another organism, such as bacteria growing in the remains of a dead animal. The deceased animal, because it is dead, can't be harmed or benefited, but the bacteria get a habitat and food source. Some plants use tropical trees for their homes. Interspecies relationship. Predator and prey. One organism, the predator, will actively hunt and consume another, the prey. Competition occurs when individuals share a resource which is in short supply. Sometimes, competition is a head-to-head confrontation, but more often, one individual uses a resource before another individual gets to it, and deprives the other of something it needs. Types of competition. Intraspecific competition between individuals of the same species. Interspecific competition between two different species. Symbiosis in tropical rainforest. Parasitism. Lianas are climbers that are abundant and diverse in tropical rainforests. They are massive woody plants whose mature stems often loop through hundreds of meters of forest, sending shoots into new tree crowns as successive supporting trees die and decay. Climbing palms or rattans are prominent lianas in Asian tropical rainforest. Competition among monkeys for food. An example of commensalism is the relationship between a tree frog and a tree. The frog receives shelter from the plant, but the plant remains unaffected. Mutualism. The relationship between capuchin monkey and flowering trees in the rainforest is an example of mutualism in the tropical rainforest. When the capuchin monkey feeds on nectar in these flowers by lapping it up, it gets pollen on its face, which eventually transfers to other flowers in the process of feeding on them. In this way, the trees provide the capuchin species with food, while the capuchin monkey facilitates pollination on flowers of this tree. And last, predation. Frogs are getting eaten by snakes in the tropical rainforest. Symbiosis in coral reefs. Mutualism. Coral are colonial organisms. Inside each coral polyp lives a single-celled algae called zooxanthellae. The zooxanthellae capture sunlight and perform photosynthesis, providing oxygen and other nutrients to the coral polyp that aid in its survival. In turn, the zooxanthellae is provided with the carbon dioxide expelled by the polyp that it needs to undergo photosynthesis. The presence of the zooxanthellae also provides colored pigments to help protect the coral's white skeleton from sunlight. Commensalism. Using the coral skeleton as a place to anchor, these sessile or stationary organisms provide shelter for fish, shrimp, crabs, and other small animals. In both cases, the symbiosis is commensal. Parasitism. Sea stars are often found on the reef. Crown-of-thorns sea stars are well-known predators of coral reefs and have been known to devastate entire coral reef colonies. This parasitic relationship in that the sea stars find food in the polyps of the coral, whereas the coral is stripped down to its skeleton and left to die. Predation. In addition to severe weather, corals are vulnerable to attacks by predators. Example of predator-prey relationships in coral reefs include sharks and dolphins, starfish and snails, and barracudas and black triggerfish. Competition. A competitive relationship in a coral reef includes spatial competition between different species of corals, such as elkhorn coral and staghorn coral, as well as competition for prey between fish species like butterfly fish and damselfish. Symbiosis in mangroves. A competition in a mangrove is the flamingo and the jabiru. They both eat fish, crab, and mollusk. A mutualism in a mangrove is lichen growing on a mangrove tree. Lichen is made up of fungus and algae. The fungus gets food from the photosynthesizing algae, and the algae gets a place to live. A commensalism in a mangrove is an oyster and a mangrove pneumatophore. The oyster has a solid base to live, and the mangrove is not harmed. An example of parasitism is mistletoe growing on a mangrove tree. The mistletoe grows into the tree bark and takes some of the food from the mangrove tree. The mangrove tree loses some of its food and is therefore harmed. Examples of predators in a mangrove are saltwater crocodile, jabiru, flamingo, and sea snake. Prey in a mangrove include crustaceans, fish, turtles, snakes, lizards, birds, and mollusks. Coevolution. After living together for a long period of time, some species evolve. When two or more species evolve in response to each other, it is called coevolution. To sum it up, in an ecosystem, no organism is ever isolated. Survival depends on interdependence of organisms, a key theme in biology. Any disturbance in an ecosystem will likely affect every organism living there. Thank you for listening. Good day.
Papadali na ang pagtuturo natin ng different ecological interactions sa ating mga grade 6 learners. Alam mo, Ma'am Glenda, itong symbiotic relationships na ito, medyo confusing to sa mga bata natin eh. Kasi, di ba, ang dami-dami niyan. Meron tayong commensalism, parasitism, mutualism, no? So, ang dami. So, at least ngayon, mas well-equipped na tayo with the concepts of these interactions sa ating environment. And partner, alam mo, buti pa yung parasite, no? Meron siyang ka-relationship yung kanyang host. Yung namang kalabaw, meron siyang ka-mutual relationship yung ibon na dumadapo sa kanya. So, isa na lang talaga ang masasabi ko ngayon. Sana all talaga may ka-relationship. O, ikaw ba may ka-relationship ka ngayon? Baka naman available ka pa. Hindi na. Okay. So, partner, no? Magbasa muna tayo ng ilan mga shoutouts natin or greetings from our participants.
So, okay, partner. So, meron dito, nagpapabati dito, no? Sabi niya, still watching. Good afternoon po from Paraiso ES or Urani ES, Maria Teresita Herrera. Hi, good afternoon, ma'am. At saka po from Tipo ES, is still watching daw po, no? Kasama natin sila hanggang sa huli. Sir Dexter Kapuyan.
Okay.
Meron
so,
pa dyan, partner?
Partner, no, batiin din natin yung mga kasama natin mga school heads, no, na hindi tayo iniwan simula umpisa hanggang sa matapos itong ating webinar. Okay, so wag na nating patagalin pa, no? Let us now proceed with our fourth speaker to elaborate some effective strategies to use in teaching organ systems. Here is Sir Jason Ocampo.
Good afternoon, dear science teachers. After we have watched, heard, and learned the different contents for second quarter, it's about time to refresh the teaching strategies that we may employ in teaching these lessons. I am your resource speaker, Jason R. Ocampo, Teacher 2 from Legua Integrated School of Orani District. As for my part, I will be giving you the suggested, if not the most appropriate teaching strategies on how the major organs of the human body work together to form organ systems, which will run through from week 1 to week 3 of the second quarter. Teaching strategies that I included in my discussion were primarily rooted on the suggested strategies on implementing distance learning delivery modalities for school year 2020 to 2021. And I also made consideration from the policy guidelines on daily lesson preparation for the K-12 basic education program from the year 2016. According to DepEd Order number 42, Series 2016, in planning lessons, teachers should select first from a variety of instructional models and to the corresponding strategies and methods. Let me show you the instructional framework made by and being used in Saskatchewan education since 1991. As you can see, and of course as we already known, Instructional model is a teacher's philosophical orientation to teaching, which is related to theories of learning including behaviorism, cognitivism, constructivism, social interactionism, and others. Meanwhile, instructional or teaching strategy is a teaching approach influenced by the different educational theories. Teaching strategy is what a teacher uses inside the classroom to achieve the objectives of a lesson. A teacher can use a strategy or a combination of strategies to do that. To name, these are direct and indirect instructions, interactive and experiential instructions, as well as of independent study. From these teaching strategies, there comes the teaching methods, which are the specific activity that teachers and learners will do in the teaching learning processes. In this time of pandemic, still, we have to continue imparting learning to our youngsters. To do so, under the so-called new normal, we have to consider safety protocols. One of those is the physical distancing that brought us to the distance learning. Teaching strategies that I will be presenting can be used to the different modalities of distance learning. To teach the lessons in human body systems, preferably direct instructions will do. Here are the suggested teaching methods that we may use in teaching under direct instruction. One of the methods that we may consider is didactic questioning. Didactic questions tend to be convergent, meaning to say coming closer together, especially in characteristics or ideas. It also tends to be factual and often begin with what, where, when, and how. They can be effectively used to diagnose recall and comprehension skills, to draw on prior learning experiences, to determine the extent to which lesson objectives were achieved, to provide practice, and to aid retention of information or processes. Teachers should remember that didactic questions can be simple and can encourage guessing. However, effectiveness of this method can be increased by the appropriate addition of why questions and the occasional use of what-if questions. For examples, what are the different kinds of joints? When is food become useful to the body? Where it is easy to breathe, through the nose or through the mouth? Why? How do strenuous activities affect the heart? And why reflex action is important? Another method to consider is the provision of guides for reading and viewing. There are plenty of different materials we can provide. Providing the list of articles to read and videos to watch will help our learners on what and where they will go, especially for those learners with the capacity to browse the internet. It will serve as their map to enrich the information we teachers provided to them. Guides for reading may contain the list of the different valid and authentic reading materials they can access that will help them to add more knowledge pertaining to the topic we are teaching them. Same goes with the videos, where we may enlist perhaps the website links of the different educational video clips, such as documentaries related to the lesson. Here is an example of viewing guide for the different body systems. There we have the skeletal system, the muscular system, the integumentary, digestive, circulatory, excretory, respiratory, and of course the nervous system. We may also use mastery lecture. Lecture is a valuable part of a teacher's instructional range if it is not overused, especially when there are other methods that would be more effective. If the presenter or the teacher is knowledgeable, perceptive, engaging, and motivating,
Then, lecture can stimulate reflection, challenge the imagination, and develop curiosity and a sense of inquiry. Criteria for the selection of the lecture method should include the types of experiences learners will be afforded and the kinds of learning outcomes expected. Otherwise, because lecture is teacher-centered and learner activity can be mainly passive, the attention span of learners may be limited. Therefore, to lessen the consequence of this method, the teacher must have supplementary e-learning or e-teaching materials.
E-learning and teaching materials must consider credible audiovisuals like TED Talks, crash courses, documentaries, and YouTube videos. Aside from audiovisuals, we may instruct the learners to access the different game-based educational sites absolutely for free, such as Kahoot, Quizlet, Quiziz, BabaBrain, and the like. All they have to do is sign up and log in and then learn with fun.
Aside from direct instruction, we could also use interactive instruction. Under this interactive instruction is the cooperative learning group method. The basic elements of cooperative learning can be considered essential to all interactive methods. Learner groups are small, usually consisting of 2 to 6 members. Group members share various roles and are interdependent in achieving the group learning goal. While the academic task is of primary importance, learners also learn the importance of maintaining group health and harmony and respecting individual views. Let's watch the short video about cooperative learning.
There are certain times that learners may get bored and lost their interest and attention with what we are teaching. To eliminate these dull moments and in order to maintain the active participation of our learners, do not limit yourselves with your selected method, most especially in synchronous online session. Instead, try to find online platforms or websites where you can get back the participation and interaction between us as the teacher and our learners. One of these is the Mentimeter. Mentimeter gives every learner a voice and stops only the loudest in the class from being heard. It enables to engage students whenever, wherever, using live polls, word cloud, multiple choice questions, and more. We can also track learning and understanding by asking questions and downloading results. According to Dr. Michelle Lansigan of American University, this practice has to exercise of the teacher every 10 minutes for younger learners and every 15 minutes for older ones. After all, learning materials, either modular or online materials, are available to our DepEd LRMDS. You can also find a pool of interactive learning materials in DepEd Commons. All you have to do is sign up and log in. Before I end my presentation, I would like to share this to everyone. A teacher needs to be able to formulate, construct, arrange, modify, and make sense of information so that it can be understood as knowledge by Barbossa's 2020. Dear teachers, let us always be reminded that our role is to modify or make difficult concept into something easy, bite-sized, and digestible learning pieces for our learners that eventually would become knowledge. I hope and look forward that you got something from my discussion. Thank you for watching and listening. God bless us all and keep
Ayan. Maraming salamat, Sir Jason, sa napaka-detailed na explanation ng mga iba't ibang teaching strategies na maaaring gamitin para madaling maituro ang different organ system. So for sure, maraming natutunan ng ating mga participants ngayon. So, Sir Chris, meron ka bang mga ilang reminders bago natin ipakilala yung susunod nating speaker?
Yes, partner, no? So, remind lang natin ang ating mga participants na please fill the attendance form after po ng ating webinar kasi yan ang magiging basihan natin para maibigay natin ang kanilang certificate of participation or certificate of recognition. And after din po ng webinar, ipopost ng ating mga ICT personnel ang link para sa ating post-assessment. So kung akala ninyo, mga bata lang ang nagtitest, no, mali kayo doon. Kasama rin kayo sa mag-e-exam. Kasi kailangan natin matest kung meron bang natutunan ang ating mga participants sa ating webinar. Di ba, partner?
Yes, partner, tama.
Oo. Pero alam mo, hindi naman nagpapatalo yung mga yan pagdating sa exam no? Marami pa rin nakaka-perfect. And ma-recognize natin yung mga yan. Okay.
Okay, sige. Thank you, partners, for reminders, no? So, sa tingin ko, ready na yung ating next facilitator, no? Ready na siya. So, to enumerate and discuss the different teaching strategies to use and distinguish the characteristics of vertebrates and invertebrates, let us listen to Ma'am Josa Sara Diaz.
It's our science time, it's our science time. Come and be merry, it's our science time. It's our science time, it's our science time. Come and be merry, it's our science time. Welcome to the Division webinar on science content and teaching strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies. I am Miss Josa Sara Diaz, Teacher 1 from Asuncion Consunji Elementary School, Samal District. Science teachers must be knowledgeable, skilled in a variety of teaching methodologies, and imbued with worthwhile values and attitudes. Teachers are what we called the designers of effective learning activities, while learners must possess mental maturity, positive personal traits, coupled with interests, special talents, and aspirations. And learning environment must be orderly, comfortable, and conducive to learning. A harmonious mix of the three can guarantee a successful attainment of the pervading goal of science teaching. Science lessons and activities that are well planned to as objectives, strategies, and teaching devices will be productive and enjoyable. Genuine curiosity, eagerness to learn, and inquisitiveness will be sustained and satisfied. The right mold of a scientific mind among the young will be cultivated and nurtured by competent, inspiring, and compassionate science teachers. This science teaching will definitely be worth all the rich human material and emotional resources that will be generously poured into teaching. But how can we make science teaching more creative at this time? What kind of learners do you envision at this time of pandemic? Is it the kind of learners that is resilient, flexible, or lifelong learners? Is distance learning a learning environment that is conducive to learning? Some of these questions must take into consideration. We want to make sure that in distance education, we promote deeper and creative thinking in our students. No matter what the learning modalities will be, the aim really of education is to help students to develop essential skills, competencies, and even attitudes that can help them thrive in and contribute to the society. Kasi tayo mga teachers, we want our pupils to have sense of fulfillment, to discover who they are as an individual, their talents, their capabilities, the things that they can do, and the things that they know. In short, we want our pupils to be someone who could create something, someone who could think well, and someone who could apply the knowledge and skills not just in the classroom setting, but also in the outside setting because we don't have the idea of physical classroom right now. Due to this pandemic, we have now the distance learning, which refers to learning delivery modality, where the learning takes place between the teacher and the learner, who are geographically remote from each other's instruction. So the question is, how our pupils will learn the most essential learning competency at this time of pandemic? So for today, I would like to introduce some of the teaching approaches or strategies that we can further develop deeper and creative thinking in teaching the characteristics of vertebrates and invertebrates to our pupils. Let us first define method and what is its implication. It stands for a system, oftentimes referred to as a procedure. In teaching, method suggests an approach or a technique used by a teacher in pursuing a lesson objective. In a strict sense, it is a fixed course of action, usually following a systematic plan. Proficiency in employing a variety of instructional methodologies is the best guarantee of attaining a desired learning outcome. There is no single best method in accomplishing a planned objective, and we all know that. One may be selected as the most appropriate for a learning episode, but may not be suited for the same objective in another learning engagement. The teacher's decision in choosing is crucial. A number of contributory factors must be considered. First, the age and instructional level. Second, the interest. And the last, stability of the students. The learning resources in terms of facilities and availability of materials that are needed should likewise be considered. The competence of the teacher in implementing the procedure is of paramount importance. Each of the teaching approaches and strategies will be discussed specifically in distinguishing the characteristics of vertebrates and invertebrates at this time of pandemic. But let me share to you the 10 tips on how to have evidence-based teaching strategies. Strategies that will help you discover the science of what works. First, be clear about what you want your students to learn. It is crucial that you are clear about what you want your students to learn during each lesson. Clear lesson goals help you and your students to focus every other aspect of your lesson on what matters most. Second, tell your students what they need to know and show them that they need to be able to do. Once you are clear about what you want your students to know and be able to do by the end of the lesson, you need to tell them what they need to know and show them how to do the tasks you want them to be able to do. Third, Use questions to check that your students understand things. Think techniques such as randomized sampling, student answer boards, and tell a friend help you to check for understanding before moving on from the show and tell part of your lesson, while you can use other questioning techniques at different stages of your lesson. Fourth, have students summarize new information in a graphical way. Graphic outlines, including things such as mind maps, flowcharts, and Venn diagram, discussing a graphic summary is a fantastic way to finish off your how and tell. You can then refer to it one more time at the end of your lesson. Fifth, give your students plenty of practice spaced out over time. Practice helps students to retain the knowledge and skills that they have learned, while also allowing you another opportunity to check for understanding. Sixth, provide your students with feedback so they can refine their efforts. Unlike praise, which focuses on the student rather than the task, feedback provides your students with a tangible understanding of what they did well, of what they are at, and of how they can improve. Seventh, allow time for every child to succeed. When you adopt mastery learning, you differentiate in a different way. You keep your learning goals the same. By vary time, you give each child to succeed. Within the constraint of a crowded curriculum, this may be easier than done, however, we can do it to some degree. 8. Get students working together in productive ways. Group work is not new, but productive work group is rare. To increase the productivity of your groups, you need to be selective about the tasks you assign to them and the individual role that each member plays. You should only ask groups to do tasks that all group members can do successfully. 9th, teach students strategies as well as content. From assignments and studying to characterization, there are strategies underpinning the effective execution of many tasks that you ask students to perform in school. And just as with content, you need to tell students about these strategies to show them how to use them guided practice before asking them to use them independently. And the last is nurture metacognition. These 10 tips will help us teachers to make our students learn. Now, let us have the different teaching strategies that we could use in the different learning modalities. But we will just be focusing on modular distance learning and online distance learning. Modular distance learning involves individualized instruction that allows learners to use self-learning modules in print or digital format. In modular learning, students are encouraged to work various activities that are interesting and challenging. Let us first have the modular distance learning. What teaching strategy that we could use in teaching the characteristics of vertebrates and invertebrates in modular learning setup? First is we have the direct instruction. Direct instruction is a highly teacher-directed and is among the most commonly used. This strategy is effective for providing information or developing a way of teaching which aims to help students acquire some basic skills and procedural knowledge. In general usage, the term direct instruction refers to instructional approaches that are structured, sequenced, and led by teachers, and or the presentation of academic content to students by teachers. It is usually deductive. That is, the rule of generalization is presented and then illustrated with examples. While this strategy may be considered among the easier to plan and to use, it is clear that effective direct instruction is often more complex than it would first appear. So these are the suggested possible methods under direct instruction that we could use in teaching the characteristics of vertebrates and invertebrates. First is the structured overview. A structured overview is a graphic organizer used to arrange the keywords and concepts on a topic. It is also a learning strategy for the introduction of new vocabulary and overall organization of a selection by representing key terms. The following steps are usually involved: listing the key terms, arranging the terms to highlight relationships between ideas, adding words familiar to the student in order to develop identified relationships, and evaluating the diagram, presenting a diagram, and providing reasons for the arrangement therein. The second possible method under direct instruction in modular learning setup is the compare and contrast. It helps students to look at different concepts and to relate them and see how they are different from one another. There are many different ways of creating this. The use of Venn diagram is a great way to help students compare and contrast. So here are some examples of compare and contrast. And the last possible method under direct instruction in modular learning is the key term drill and practice. Drill and practice is defined as a method of instruction characterized by systematic repetition of concepts, examples, and practice problems. Drill and practice is disciplined and repetitions exercise used as mean of teaching and perfecting a skill or procedure. It promotes acquisition of knowledge. Now, let us have the online distance learning. Online distance learning is the newest and popular form of distance education. This education that takes place over the internet. It is often referred as e-learning in other terms. It is also a form of education in which the main element includes physical separation of teachers and students during instruction. Online distance learning. What teaching strategy that we could use in teaching the characteristics of vertebrates and invertebrates? We have the interactive instruction. It's all about instructing the students in a way they are actively involved with the learning process. Most of the time, it is through teacher-to-student interaction, student-to-student interaction, the use of audiovisuals, and hands-on demonstration and exercises. You encourage your students to be active members of your class, thinking on their own, using their brains, and resulting in long-term memory retention. Here is the suggested possible method under interactive instruction. Class discussion through online digital platform such as Zoom and Google Meet. Class discussion is a group-oriented teaching methodology characterized by a free communication of ideas and information between teachers and students. As a learning activity, it may take a question and answer format, explains about a process or clarifications about a certain procedures. As a whole, the activity is described as an orderly verbal interchange between the teacher and the learners. Discussion as a technique is effective because it encourages the students to express their own ideas openly with a strong feeling of confidence. They are motivated to engage in discourse even beyond classroom teaching. This is an example of class discussion through video conferencing. Strategy is the independent study. What is independent study? Independent study refers to the range of instructional methods which are purposefully provided to foster the development of individual student initiative, self-reliance, and self-improvement. So here is the possible method under independent study. Reporting. It aims to provide students with information in a direct way in an uninterrupted manner. This is an example of reporting through video conferencing. strategy for online learning is the experiential learning. What is experiential learning? Experiential learning is inductive, learner-centered, and activity-oriented. Personalized reflection about an experience and the formulation of plans to apply learnings to other contexts are critical factors in effective experiential learning. Experiential learning can be viewed as a cycle consisting of 5 phases, all of which are necessary. First, experiencing, an activity occurs. Second, sharing or publishing. Third, analyzing or processing. Fourth, inferring or generalizing. And the last one is applying, or plans are made to use. Experiential learning makes use of a variety of resources. Before I end my presentation, let me read this slogan. Keep learning, embrace new experiences, see opportunities, and surprise yourself. Thank you, and God bless everyone.
Thank you very much, Ma'am Josa. And ayan, partner, no? So we're down to our last facilitator for this afternoon. But before that, partner, no, magbasa muna tayo ng ilang shoutouts mula sa ating mga participants, no? As I promised, no, pag meron pa tayong natitirang time, babasahin po namin ang mga greetings ninyo. Okay, so we have here Sir Leonardo Crisolo watching from Nagbalayong Elementary School, Morong District. Hello po sa lahat ng kasamahan nating guro mula sa Morong District. Happy New Year po sa inyong lahat dyan. So meron pa tayo dito, partner, mula naman kay Sir Joshua Sapad. Good afternoon po. Watching from Diwa Elementary School, Pilar District. God bless po. Okay, partner, so meron bang nag-shout out dyan? Okay, no? So partner, hindi natin naririnig ang iyong microphone. Nakamute pa po si Ma'am Glenda sa kasalukuyan. Ayan.
Okay, still watching daw po from Almasen ES, no, headed by Ma'am Landy Bugay. Ma'am Vanessa Magkalas, sabi niya po, thank you daw po sa ating mga facilitators. Napakarami daw po nilang natutunan ngayon. So thank you po, facilitators. At meron pa pong isa from Paraiso, Orani District. So mapagpalang hapon po, still watching. Galing po yan kay Sir Samson Angat.
Okay, so
Meron
hello
pa ba,
po
partner?
sa teachers ng Orani District. Yes, Ma'am Glenda, meron pa dito, no? Mula naman kay Ma'am Angeline Magsanop ng Sapang Balas ES. Binabati ko po ang aking bagong school head, Sir Rafi Abilong. So hello po sa lahat ng teachers at sa bago nilang school head na si Sir Rafi Abilong ng Sapang Balas Elementary School. So partner, gusto ko ring batiin ang aking mga kasamahan from Bayan-Bayanan Elementary School at ang aking bagong school head, Sir Enrico Susi, na talaga namang supportive. Okay, so meron pa bang nagpapagreet dyan, partner?
Yes, partner, from still watching daw from Nagbalayong ES, Morong District, Sir Leonard Crisologo. So,
Okay.
Sir Leonard.
Okay. So partner, so after ng ating last facilitator for this afternoon, meron tayong question and answer part. So doon sasagutin lahat ng questions ng ating mga participants. So for now, maki-reserve muna po ang inyong mga questions, and for sure, after po nito sa ating Q&A part ay masasagot po lahat ng inyong mga questions. Okay. So ano pang hinihintay natin, no? Let us now listen to our last speaker to share some teaching strategies to use in teaching interactions of living things and non-living things in tropical rainforests, coral reefs, and mangrove swamps. Here is Sir Aaron M. Gadson.
Good afternoon, teachers. Thank you for tuning in to our division webinar on science content and teaching strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies. I am Sir Aaron M. Ganzon, Teacher 1 from Salyan Elementary School, Abukay District. I was assigned to discuss the teaching strategies of the contents that was discussed by Sir Robert Kevin Alindayo, which is the interactions of living things and non-living things in tropical rainforest, coral reefs, and mangrove swamps. Based on the most essential learning competencies or MELC, the content standard states that the learners demonstrate understanding of the interactions for survival among living things and non-living things that take place in tropical rainforests, coral reefs, and mangrove swamps. The performance standard states that the learners should be able to form discussion groups to tackle issues involving protection and conservation of ecosystems that serve as nurseries, breeding places, and habitats for economically important plants and animals. And the most essential learning competency is to discuss the interactions among living things and non-living things in tropical rainforest, coral reefs, and mangrove swamps. Experiential learning and indirect instruction are the two strategies suited for the said competency. Experiential learning is inductive, learner-centered, and activity-oriented. It requires learners to reflect about the experience and ways to apply it to other contexts. According to Playper and Jones, 1979, experiential learning occurs when learners participate in an activity, critically look back on the activity to clarify earnings and feelings, draw useful insights from such analysis, and put earnings to work in new situations. Experiential learning can be viewed as a cycle consisting of 5 phases, all of which are necessary. First is experiencing, where an activity occurs. Second is sharing or publishing, where actions and observations are shared. Third is analyzing or processing, where patterns and dynamics are determined. Fourth is inferring or generalizing, where principles are derived. And the fifth one is applying, where plans are made to use earnings in new situations. The emphasis in experiential learning is on the process of learning and not on the product. A teacher can use experiential learning as an instructional strategy both in and outside the classroom. Experiential learning is an effective instructional strategy if direct or hands-on experience is needed before teaching methods that involve iconic or symbolic learning. Methods under experiential learning are field trips or virtual trips, games, surveys, and focus imaging. Because all of it requires students' participation, they can build knowledge and attitudes based on what they have observed and experienced and can apply it to a new situations. indirect instruction is mainly student-centered. It seeks a high level of student involvement in observing, investigating, drawing inferences from data, or forming hypotheses. It takes advantage of students' interest and curiosity, often encouraging them to generate alternatives or solve problems. Indirect instruction also fosters creativity and the development of interpersonal skills and abilities. Science log is a method that can be used at any point in the lesson. It encourages students to think about what they know, what questions they have before the lesson, what they have learned, and what additional questions have been generated after the lesson. Science logs are introduced as places where students will write about their experiences in science, including their observations, questions, and insights. Guided imagery is a method that helps students relate abstract or unfamiliar scientific concepts to their own lives. Students could create or write their own guided imagery passages after they read or learn. The teachers should select passages or text, for example, about symbiosis. Then students should identify the key ideas and phrases in the text or passages relating to the concept. Example, in the concept of symbiosis, the key ideas will be a relationship exists between two or more different kinds of organisms living together and depend on each other in a particular place. And lastly, students will develop an idea or visualization that captures the ideas associated with the concept. In our example, students can think that symbiosis is a relationship exists between two or more different kinds of organisms living together and depend on each other in a particular place. Students can visualize in their surroundings that there are different kinds of relationships exist depending on the living things in a particular place. Inquiry-based learning is a method consisting of 5 phases: ask, investigate, create, discuss, and reflect. The 5 E's or engagement, exploration, explanation, elaboration or extension, and evaluation in teaching science lessons follow this method.
Ayan, no? So, thank you po, Sir Aaron. At nag-enjoy kami talaga sa presentation mo. Okay, partner, I think it's about time for us to invite our 6 facilitators, or I think 5 facilitators para sa ating live, no? Para makasama natin sila sa ating question and answer part ng ating webinar. Okay, so habang hinihintay po natin na mag-join sa ating live, okay, so Ma'am Glenda, no, nagkakaroon tayo ng konting technical problem dito. Hindi ka namin naririnig, partner. Nagkakaroon tayo ng kaunting technical problem, no? So kami po ay humihingi ng pangunawa sa ating mga participants. So ayan, I think kasama na natin ang ilan nating mga facilitators. Nakikita ko na dito si Ma'am Sarah Jane. Ma'am Sarah Jane, kaway-kaway naman po dyan. No, nandito na rin si Ma'am Josa Diaz. Hello, Ma'am Josa. Si Ma'am Jeanette. No?
Hello, sir.
Nandito na rin
Naririnig
si
na
Ma'am
ba ako?
Jeanette. Yes, Ma'am Glenda, loud and clear.
Okay.
No, kasama na rin
Thank you,
natin si
sir.
Sir RK Alindayu, nandito na rin siya. And pati si Ma'am si Sir Aaron rather. Okay, so I think si Sir Jason po, nagpasabi siya na hindi siya makakasama sa atin ngayon sa ating Q&A dahil kasalukuyan siyang nasa Manila, nagre-renew ng kanyang PRC ID. Okay, so anyway, kasama naman natin yung 5 nating facilitators dito. Sa lahat po ng gustong magtanong sa ating mga participants, yes, you can throw your questions now. Pero habang naghihintay tayo ng mga tanong mula sa ating participants, no, Ma'am Glenda, magbasa muna tayo ng ilang mga shout-outs mula sa ating mga participants. Okay,
Okay,
so
sir.
from Ma'am Erlinda Pagyo, good afternoon po. From Culis Elementary School, Hermosa District. Hello po, Ma'am Erlinda. Okay, sino pa? Si Sir Benzinito Kitali. Good afternoon po. Watching from Santa Rosa Elementary School, Pilar District. Okay, partner, meron pa bang ibang nag-shoutout dyan?
Yes, partner, from San Ramon ES, still watching daw. Galing kay Ma'am Emily Reyes. Hi, Ma'am Emily. At saka
So
po
gusto ko rin, sige.
from
Continue,
Sapang
partner.
Balas ES, mula kay Angeli Magsanop. Good afternoon daw po. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Okay. So, yes, Ma'am Glenda, gusto ko ring batiin ang aming PSDS, Dr. Roger De Padua, na napakabait, no? Gwapo na, mabait
Yes, tama
pa. So,
po.
saan ka pa? 'Di ba?
Tama
At
po.
lahat po ng teachers ng Dinalupihan East and West districts, no? Yung mga teachers talaga ng Dinalupihan, mga palaban yan eh. Talagang hindi magpapatalo yan pagdating sa mga ganito. No? Feeling ko, pagdating sa post-assessment, maraming kakaririn ang exam. Okay, partner, so meron pa bang shout out dyan bago tayo mag-proceed sa ating question and answer?
Yes, partner. Still watching daw from Orani South ES. God bless us all daw po. Galing kay Sir Con Bringola. At
Okay,
kay Ma'am Teresita Herelia. Good afternoon daw po. At is still watching from Praeso ES. Orani.
Okay, so hello po. Good afternoon at Happy New Year po sa inyong lahat. Okay, sa ating mga facilitators, kasama na natin sila, partner, no? So, kaway-kaway naman po tayo para ma-recognize tayo ng ating mga viewers, ng ating mga participants. Okay. Okay, partner, meron na akong question dito. I think this is for Ma'am Jeanette. Okay, Ma'am Jeanette, do you have more suggestions or clarifications regarding the concepts of the difference between vertebrates and invertebrates? Ulitin ko, medyo mahaba yung question, partner, no? Okay, Ma'am Jeanette po, do you have more suggestions or clarifications regarding the concepts of the difference between vertebrates and invertebrates? Okay, no, Ma'am Jeanette, naka-off po ang ating microphone. Naki-open po ang ating microphone, Ma'am Jeanette. Ayan.
Ayan, okay na, sir.
Yes po.
Okay na
Go
po.
ahead po, ma'am.
Ayan. So, thank you po. Thank you po.
Yes, ma'am. Proceed na po kayo, ma'am.
Okay, so thank you, sir, for that question. And before we answer, I would like to greet everyone. Happy New Year po and good afternoon. And thank you po for being with us in our webinar today sa mga grade 6 po nating kapatid dyan, mga grade 6 teachers and elementary teachers. Good afternoon. So, nasabi na po lahat ng mga like the strategies ni Ma'am Josa. So, i-reiterate ko lang po yung ating concept map. Yan, very useful po ang ating concept map when it comes to the organization of new ideas, lalo na po sa mga bata natin. Concept maps are very important because it helps them to make meaningful connections between the main idea and other information. Ayan po. And of course, let us not forget to ask the students their own examples and as much as possible, make it localized po. Ayan, para familiar sa ating mga bata. If not familiar naman sa kanila, yan, bigyan natin sila ng ibang pictures or videos. Ayan. And of course, please do not forget to teach them the ways on how to take care of our environment. Kasi pag nagtuturo tayo, we do not only fill the minds, but we fill their hearts also. And lastly po, share ko lang, pag nagtuturo po tayo, always think na yung bata po ay blank slate or wala pang alam. Tell them even the slightest idea na alam nyo para po alam nila. So, pinakamaliit na bagay ay mahalaga para sa bata. So, teach them everything you know, from the slightest thing to the biggest thing that you know. So, yun lang po, sir. Thank you very much and God bless us all. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you po, Ma'am
Thank
Jeanette.
you, Ma'am
No?
Jeanette.
Okay, so partner, meron pa ba tayong questions dyan para sa ating mga facilitators?
Yes, partner. So bago ko ibigay yung questions, I think para kay Sir Kevin Alindayo to habang nagre-ready siya. Yung ating pong mga participants, pakikuha na po yung attendance na nandito po sa ilalim ng screen. Nagpa-flash po siya. Ayan po yung, dyan po natin ma-accomplish yung attendance natin. No? Yung link po, ayan na. Okay, sir, ready ka na ba?
Yes po,
Sir, ito yung
ma'am.
question ha. Okay, ito yung question. Is there a need to control symbiosis? Why or why not?
Good afternoon po sa lahat. So baka po yung tinutukoy dun sa question is about parasitism because yung parasitism lang yung may negative effect dun sa isang organism. So if it is detrimental to our health or harmful to our health, we need to control that kind of symbiosis. But let us remember na not all parasites kill their host. So there are some parasites that actually eat other or various diseases, which is helpful to the organism. So there is a need to control if it is harmful to our health. For example, yung mga intestinal worms, kapag sobrang dami na niya, we need to control it. Yun po. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so, thank you, sir.
Thank you po, Sir RK Alindayo. No? So, ayoko nang isupplement ang sinabi ni Sir kasi partner, feeling ko satisfied na ako doon eh, di ba? Napaka-meaty ng answer ni Sir RK Alindayo. Thank you so much, Sir RK. Okay, so ang next question natin, wait lang, habang nagbabrowse tayo dito ng comment section. Ito, I think this is for Sir Aaron. Sir Aaron, this is your question. Now, aside from the strategies that you've discussed, do you have any suggested appropriate strategy or strategies which is or which are more effective to the said topic? No, ulitin ko din po, medyo lengthy itong question para kay Sir Aaron. Aside from the strategies that you've discussed, do you have any suggested appropriate strategy or strategies which is more or which are more effective to the said topic?
Okay, thank you po sir and thank you po sa lahat. Considering po yung situation nowadays na dahil nga po new normal, siguro po yung strategies na magagawa ng students natin by their own,
but with the guidance pa rin po ng teacher. I think yung independent study po is better during this time. Kung saan yung independent study po, meron po siyang ibang methods like yung computer assisted instructions, projects, yung modular modules, and yung homework. Di ba po lahat naman yung methods na yun ay nagagawa ng students natin by their own, but with the guidance pa rin po ng ating teachers. Thank you po.
Yan, thank you,
So,
sir.
thank you, Sir Aaron. No? Partner, wait lang habang nasa kaligitnaan tayo ng ating Q&A para sa lahat na nagtatanong ng link ng ating attendance. Ayan na po, nagpa-flash na sa ating screen. Please do not forget to register sa ating link kasi yan po ang magiging basehan natin ng pagbibigay ninyo ng, para mabigyan namin kayo ng certificate of participation or certificate of recognition. Okay. So partner, meron pa ba tayong question?
Okay, meron pa dito. Para naman ito kay Ma'am Josa Sara. Ma'am Josa, nasan ka po? Ready na? Ready na ba ang ma'am para sa kanyang question?
Ready na yan, partner.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So ito po yung question, no? Aside from the direct instruction, can you suggest another teaching strategy in modular distance learning? Ulitin ko po, ma'am.
Yan, thank you po, ma'am, for that wonderful. Yes.
Okay po.
Yan, okay po. Thank you for that wonderful question, Ma'am Glenda. So, since limited information po is provided for the printed and digital modules, we can get our learners further by utilizing independent study, kagaya ng sinabi ni Sir Aaron po. Through independent study po, we may boost their learnings by giving them questions that could be answered in essay forms. So sa ganoong paraan or in that way, learners will be able to express and share their ideas and perhaps advanced knowledge they had about the lesson. So in addition dun, Ma'am Glenda, independent study is pwede nating masabi kasi yan as directed study and an educational activity with little supervision. Medyo may negative parts medyo may negative dun sa part na yon. Pero what good at it is that it provides student opportunities on a particular topic or idea. So para sa akin, ang maisasuggest ko na another teaching strategy for modular distance learning is yung independent study. Yun po, Ma'am Glenda. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Napakadinaw, no? Siguro doon sa nagtanong doon sa questions para kay Ma'am Sara, nalinawan ka po ba sa question mo? No, na ibigay ng Ma'am Sara yung gusto mong sagot, I think. Partner, meron pa ba tayong questions diyan?
Okay, so Ma'am Glenda, no, natutuwa naman ako na amaze ako sa ating mga facilitators kasi ang galing nilang sumagot ng mga questions, ano? Na amafin mong live ang ating Q&A pero grabe, no? Natutuwa ako at ang galing nilang sumagot. Expert talaga sila pagdating sa kanilang mga field at sa mga topic na diniscuss nila. Okay, so I think meron pa tayong question dito, partner, for Ma'am Sarah Jane. Okay, Ma'am Sarah Jane. Pwede ka na po ba? Ikaw na po ang last natin na facilitator. Wala kasi si Sir Jason. Okay. So this is your question. In what order should I teach the body systems? Ulitin ko po, ma'am. Ang ganda ng question, no? Ako gusto ko rin itong tanong na to. In what order should I teach the body systems?
Okay po. Good afternoon po sa lahat. So for me po, the order po in which we can teach the body systems to our students is, first po, syempre, unahin po natin yung body organization po from the basic unit of life po, which is cell, tissue, then organ system. After that po, we can start with the skeletal system po and muscular system. Skeletal and muscular system po kasi from the very young age po of children, they know about bones and muscles. Then after that po, pwede po nating isunod yung digestive system. Kasi meron po tayong smooth muscle sa ating stomach. Diba po? And then, from the absorption of food, pwede po nating isunod dito yung sa circulatory system. Since ang circulatory system po ang nagdi-deliver ng nutrients po sa ating katawan. Then, the respiratory system, excretory system, the nervous, endocrine, the reproductive po, and yung other systems po like the integumentary and the immune system po can be taught naman po siya in between those systems po. Kung saan po nyo siya pwedeng or gusto isingit na time ituro. Siyempre po, particular po yan sa strategy po ng teacher. Kung ano po yung sa tingin yung mas gamay ninyo na unahin, pwede na naman po ninyong gawin yun. Yung para naman po sa akin, yun po yung order po na pwede natin siyang ituro na mas madali po. Thank you po.
Okay, thank you po, ma'am.
So, thank you so much, Ma'am Sarah Jane. Okay, at feeling ko naman ay nasagot ni Ma'am Sarah yung kanyang question and naliwanagan ako doon sa kanyang explanation partner. Okay, Ma'am Glenda, sa tingin ko hindi natin ma-accommodate lahat ng questions ng ating mga participants. But in case po na hindi nila masagot ngayon, pwede nyo po silang i-direct message sa kanilang messenger and for sure, sasagutin naman kayo ng ating mga facilitators. Mababait itong mga to at hindi itong mga isnabero. Di ba, partner?
Yes, partner. Kasi
Okay,
po
so
limited lang
partner,
yung ating time.
Oo. So bago tayo mag-end sa ating Q&A, baka may gustong batiin, o i-recognize
Shout
ang ating mga
out.
facilitators. Oo, baka meron silang gustong batiin. So start tayo kay Sir Robert Kevin. Sir, meron ka bang gustong batiin?
Hi po sa lahat ng mga taga Mariveles District and sa ibang district na rin po. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat.
Okay, thank you. How about you, Sir
Okay,
Aaron?
thank you.
I thank you po. Pa-shout out lang po sa teachers and staffs of Jesus Reigns Christian Learning Center Incorporated, headed by Ma'am Anita M. De Dios, Ma'am Ayowa Q. Mercado, and Pastor Orlic Mercado. Sa Bangkal Elementary School Teaching Forces po, headed by Ma'am Melissa N. Mison, and sa Salian Elementary School Teaching Staff, headed by Ma'am Analiza V. Dominguez. And to our district supervisor po, Sir Ruel Tingad. Maraming salamat po. Mabuhay.
Thank you po.
Okay, so hello po, Dr. Ruel Lingad, no? Oo. So, Ma'am Jeanette, meron po ba kayong gustong batiin?
Ay, thank you, sir. School head ng Magsaysay National High School, newly installed, Ma'am Aida P. Kapili, Dr. Kapili. Good afternoon, ma'am, and Ma'am Marlene Lulu, our senior high school principal. And sa lahat po ng science teachers ng Magsaysay National High School. Hashtag ngangawa pero gagawa. Indang po.
Okay, so thank you so much, Ma'am Jeanette. Gusto ko talaga yung hashtag mo. No? Bakit kaya ngangawa? Siguro dahil nagpalit kayo ng bagong no? Oo, ngangawa pero gagawa. Oo, nandun pa rin yung motivation. Okay, Ma'am Sarah Jane, baka may gusto po kayong batiin.
Hello po sa Luwakan National High School. At sa lahat po ng nanonood at viewers namin ngayon, thank you po sa pagtsatsaga at panonood po sa amin. Thank you po. Ay, shout out po pala kay Sir Agkis sa head namin.
Okay po. Yes, how about you, Ma'am Josa?
Yan po, unang-una sa lahat, gusto ko pong pasalamatan si Sir Bermilio na binigyan po ako ng opportunity na mapabilang sa facilitators po ngayong araw. So, yan, shout out po sa akin pong school head sa Guga Elementary School, Ma'am Aurelia Garcia, and sa akin pong mga co-teachers, at sa lahat ng mga science teachers sa Samal District, gayon din sa ating mga viewers ngayon. Hello po!
Alright, thank you po, Ma'am Josa. Okay, so partner, kahit wala si Sir Jason, nagpapabati siya, sabi niya, no? Pa-shout out po sa Legua Integrated School, headed by Ma'am Caroline Reyes, Orani District Science Principal Coordinator Dr. Christian Carizal, and to the entire Orani District headed by Ma'am Arlene Carlos. Okay, so hello po sa mga taga-Orani at sa mga
Okay, thank
co-teachers
you
ni
po.
Sir Jason sa Legua Integrated School. Okay, marami pong salamat ulit sa ating mga handpick. Yung term natin, di ba? Handpick kasi piling-pili yung mga yan facilitators na talaga naman nag-share ng kanilang knowledge and expertise with particular topics. No, hindi kami nagkamali na kayo ang kinuhang speakers or facilitators for this webinar. Muli po, in behalf of Sir Edwin, maraming salamat po sa ating mga facilitators. Okay, partner, I think it's about time to close this program since wala na yata tayong question, no?
Okay po, so kung wala na pong mga questions, so to formally close our program this afternoon, so let us hear the closing remarks of the overall in charge for this webinar, the Science Department Head of Pagalanggang National High School, Ma'am Cheryl B. Mendoza.
Po sa ating lahat. In behalf of the Grade 6 group, I am very thankful and grateful to these wonderful persons for this successful and fruitful webinar. To our SDO Bataan Superintendent, Dr. Romeo M. Alip, for the approval of this webinar. To the brains of EPS1 Science Supervisor, Dr. Edwin Riel Bermilio, for making this possible and very supportive to all our concerns. Most especially to the program management team of this second quarter grade 6 webinar series, to the facilitators, moderators, program design, and Google Form in charge, to the online platform bodies, maraming salamat po sa suporta. Not to mention sa ating mga grade 6 teacher participants for the time given. We are hoping that whatever learnings gained from this webinar will be applied to our learners. Sabi nga po, lahat gagawin ng guro para sa ikatututo ng ating mga mag-aaral. Muli, magandang hapon po sa ating lahat.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Cheryl. Maraming salamat din po sa ating program management team at sa lahat ng ating participants na hindi tayo iniwan hanggang sa huli. And that concludes our division webinar series on science content and teaching strategies in the context of the most essential learning competencies for the second quarter. I am Sir Chris.
And I am Glenda Cabal. See you again next webinar. Have a great day, everyone. God bless po.
Goodbye, everyone. See you again on our next webinar. Goodbye po.